Hello, tubes of you. I have missed you guys. I've seen a lot of northerners making fun of us southerners because we have this bad weather and they're like, it's just a bit of ice, it's just a bit of snow, you'll be fine, chill out. But I have been preparing, and the funny thing is I actually came here from Germany, so I am used to the snow. I'm used to driving in the snow. We had winter tires for my husband's car, and that's what we drove around during the winter in Germany. But in the South, it's a lot different because we don't have the infrastructure for ice. We don't have the infrastructure for snow, and we just don't have the resources. So everybody's saying go get your milk sandwiches. That's a joke. But all of a sudden, every time there's a catastrophe of any kind, we are always going to get milk and bread. That is the first thing that goes. You know it's getting serious when the milk and bread are gone. But I have been prepping, and thankfully before I even knew about this storm, I had already bought myself groceries. And I try to buy myself groceries for about 2 weeks, and then we just eat off of that for 2 weeks. So I always have a little bit of a stockpile, and I have some non-perishables in my pantry at all times. I always have flour. I usually have butter, but I actually ran out of butter, and that's bad because I can't make bread from scratch. And if you don't know how to make bread from scratch and you live in the South, I would highly suggest learning how to make your own bread because it will be very resourceful, especially at a time like this. But I always keep rice, and maybe that's because I watched too much Survivor as a kid. I always keep rice in my pantry because I know that at least if all the food, goes to waste, if we really are just stuck here and something happens, we at least have rice to sustain us for a little bit. And some of these things, they just last for a good year, a year to maybe even more than that, even though it probably has an expiration date and it's past expired. It will not rot, and then you'll have food just in case you need it. But anyways, so my pantry was stocked. I had some extra curtains, and I went and doubled my curtains because my insulation in my house is not very good in certain rooms. So I figured the curtains would help, keep it a little bit more insulated. I went and charged all of our things, made sure that the dishes were done, the clothes were done, because if we end up not having power, the worst thing is to have no clothes and a bunch of dirty dishes in your sink and have no way to be able to clean it, because when the power and water goes out, obviously you can't use your dishwasher or, anything like that. So I did all that. At the same time, I was having car issues, so I had a friend come look at my car, and obviously I can drive my car. My car will still turn on, but I need to go get my tires replaced. Just a whole bunch of stuff like that. So anyways, yeah, I spent yesterday prepping, and somebody said prep, and then once you prep some more, and then prep some more. And I thought, wow, that really is true, because all we do during this time is prep for something that maybe never happens, And in my area, it's looking, thank the Lord, like we're probably just gonna get a bunch of rain, and I pray that it stays that way. But just in case our power does go out, because that's the biggest concern with me, because we don't have a generator, which I know I need to get a generator, and I'm gonna start looking into getting one soon, hopefully. But yeah, so anyways, if our power does go out, then we are gonna have trouble. We're gonna have problems because the heat does not want to stay in my house, and obviously for other reasons. But I've just been spending time trying to get as much stuff as I can ready, and even doing stuff like my battery in my truck died. It's actually my husband's truck, but I call it my truck. But the battery died, and we have this battery powered, it's rechargeable jumper cables, so I went and charged that just in case I need it, just in case me and my kids need to go to a hotel. And I know I'm rambling on about this, but I'm getting to a point. As much as I have been preparing for this, I have thought about a different preparation, and I think that a lot of Christians, we all need to prepare And it brings me to the scripture of the parable of the wise virgins and the foolish virgins. And there were 5 wise virgins and 5 foolish virgins. And the foolish virgins, they thought that they had way more time before the bridegroom come back. And they were probably partying, living it up, having a good time, and telling the wise virgins, you're fine, you're over exaggerating this, you're so worried about this, we have a lot more time. But then when the bridegroom came back, the people who were saying, oh no, we got plenty more time, this isn't going to happen, you don't need to prep for this, now all of a sudden they found themselves begging the other people to give them oil for their lamps. And I want to ask you today, and this is probably going to be a much shorter video than usual, which usually when I say that it ends up being longer than most, so we'll see how this goes. But I want to ask you, do you have oil in your lamp? As much as you're prepping for bad weather, are you prepping for the Lord to come back? And I know we have been hearing this for years and years, and it seems like life is going on as usual. But the Bible even tells us that people will be marrying and given in marriage when the Lord comes back, that it's going to be an average day. It's not going to be something that, people are going to be breaking out in chaos and saying the world is coming to a total end. No, they're going to be thinking it is like it is now. Of course, we see right now that there is catastrophes. A lot of people in the United States are about to go through this catastrophe, and I pray that it's not as bad as the Weather Channel is making it out to be. And I pray that the people who are in the eye of the storm, they have the necessities, they have the items they need, they have a generator. I pray that they're already prepared for this. And I pray that it's not as bad, because it would be better for them to be prepared for it and it to not be as bad than for them to not be prepared for it and it to be worse than what they think. And I just want to give you some reasons as to why I think we are in the end of the end days, because I know a lot of people hear this all the time. We've been hearing our pastors say for years, right, that the Lord's coming back. And a lot of people, including myself in the past, would get tired of hearing the pastor say this. And I would just kind of make fun of it for a while, even whenever I was like early into my Christian years, of saying, we have way more time. Those people, they don't know what they're talking about. But now I see it, that God He is faithful. And He is giving people more than enough time to get ready. And because He is so faithful, and because He is so just and so loving, He's bringing people like me to you. There's been plenty of other YouTubers that are saying that they believe that God brought them to start a YouTube channel to share the word. And that is me, because I had no intention of starting this YouTube channel. What I actually wanted to do is just clean on videos and make money, be a stay-at-home mom, and be able to have a at-home job and be with my kids. But it never worked out. And the Lord had been kind of pressing this on my heart of, you need to really share this, and you need to share the word with others and warn people and wake people up. And that is why I couldn't fight it anymore. And I was like, okay, my way is failing. My way is failing so bad. So Lord, do whatever you want with this channel. This is all your platform, and just use me as a vessel. And I started sharing the gospel and sharing that people need to repent because the time is at hand. And there are so many other stories like that. But that is just one of the reasons why I believe that the Lord is coming back so soon. Because, I'm making myself sound really old. And I bet some of you feel really old watching me say this. But I was born before Google. And, we didn't always have iPhones or Android phones. We didn't have these smartphones. And, we would read the Bible. And I remember growing up thinking, how in the world could the world see, this beast and worship the image of the beast all at once? How could the whole world see this? Well, now all people have to do is stare at their cell phone and this image could pop up on your cell phone. Another reason why I believe that we're coming so close to the end times, the end of the end times, and the Lord's return is because I just seen a post the other day, and this is not a new thing because they've been talking about this for a while, but Elon Musk literally said that AI in 5 years is going to be smarter than all of human intelligence combined. In 5 years from now, that's not much time. And I know 5 years seems like a lot of time, but time flies. Let me tell you, I have a 5, almost 6-year-old, and I can tell you how fast that time has went by. I mean, it has just gone by so fast. I can't believe he's almost 6 years old. But the world is not sustainable that we're living in. They're talking about AI taking over people's jobs. The love of many has grown so cold. We see the news being responsible for putting a lot of this out there and making people hate one another. And I'm not like a total leftist or a total, on the right, whatever you want to call it. But I see where both sides, they see stuff only through their worldview, and they're causing each other to hate each other, and they're just adding fuel to the fire, when a lot of times in reality it's not like that. There's more nuance to it. And I am very anti the killing of innocent life. There is things that I don't agree with on the right or the left, and I follow Jesus, and that's what I believe in. I believe that we should all be more concerned about Jesus than politics. But we're seeing people storm churches here lately in politics, and bringing politics into churches that are literally just trying to praise and worship God. And there's just so many things, so much hatred going on. There's so much entitlement. And that is another reason why I believe that we are getting close to the end days, because it says people would be lovers of self. And we're seeing that. I keep seeing an ad pop up, and every time I see it, I roll my eyes, because this girl is talking about, it has really affected her because she gets some unsolicited advice, and she has to have therapy for the unsolicited advice. I'm like, girl, there is more problems to the world than somebody giving you some advice that you don't want. Sometimes the advice that you don't want is actually good for you. But I see this all the time, as wherein, you used to stop for people and let them pass, and people would like wave back at you, and they would smile and be like, oh, thank you for, letting me pass on the street. And, there still are some that do that. And it's not just everybody's rude all the time, but I'll notice you'll stop for somebody and you'll let them pass, and they'll give you a dirty look. And it's just crazy to me, because that never used to happen whenever, I was growing up. People were just a lot kinder to each other, and people have just gotten so rude. And honestly, a lot of times when people try to be rude to me on the road, I don't do anything back, because you don't know what people are thinking these days. You don't know what they're going to do. People, could have that mental break. You have no idea. And it is dark times that we're living in. The robots that they're building these days are scary. They are scary, and it's getting scarier, and they're getting more realistic. Another reason why I believe that we are close to the end, we are at the end of the end days, is because of AI. All of these videos that they're releasing of people that are saying stuff, and it's not actually those people, and it looks more and more realistic. As in before, if people fell for AI, it used to be like, oh yeah, that's AI. It's, I don't understand how people fall for that. There's this and this and this wrong with it, and you can tell it's AI. Well, now a lot of people can no longer tell it's AI, so they can manipulate things to make it say whatever they want. And we've seen them doing that. There's a couple people on YouTube that I've seen that they have actually taken their face and generated this video making them say stuff that they didn't say, and then they had to come back on and say, that's not me. But I just think this can be weaponized. We see wars and rumors of wars. What is going on with Israel right now is so prophetic, because if you are looking for the Lord's return, look no further than Israel. Everything that is happening with Israel right now, the hatred of Israel, is a big prophecy fulfilled. The rising of the nation of Israel, it becoming a nation, was a big prophecy fulfilled. And I can't remember. Guys, if you know the verse, let me know, because I'm sitting in my car and I don't have my Bible on hand. But there is a verse that says that this generation will not pass until the coming of the Lord is here, until the Lord returns. And it says 70 years, but 80 years at best. And we are right in that time period. And I'm not setting any dates, because only the Lord knows when he's going to return. Not even the angels know. But if we look at that, we can see that we are so close, that we are right there, because this generation that it's speaking of is the generation that watched Israel become a nation, that was a part of Israel becoming a nation. And, it's getting around that 70 to 80 year time frame. So we see this. Another reason, and a lot of people don't talk about this one, is there's an agenda out there to share the gospel with the entire world. And they are predicting that the gospel will be shared with the entire world by 2030. And this is just a prediction. That doesn't mean it can't happen earlier than that. And it doesn't mean it can't happen later than that. But the fact that they are predicting that it's going to happen in 2030 is so crazy to me, because the Bible tells us that, the Lord will come back when the gospel is preached to everybody, that everybody will have a chance to have heard the gospel. There's a mosquito in my car. I don't know how in the world. Only in the South would you find a mosquito in your car when it's 38 degrees outside. But anyways, squirrel. There's just so many reasons that I believe that the Lord is he's coming back so soon. And the biggest, most obvious reason is that this world is just not sustainable. It's not built to last that long. We see everything around us dying, and we see everything just turning awful. And a lot of people give Gen Z so much hate because they're deciding to not have children. But these Gen Z are having to decide to either have children or have a home. And a lot of people are saying that they're just being selfish, and that they could just save money, and that they don't need all these extra necessities. And while that is true for some, or I say necessities, all these extra things that aren't necessities, while that is true for some are actually just trying to survive and actually trying to be able to afford a house. And it is impossible if you look at the math. I'm no mathematician, and I am actually horrible at math, but even I can see that it's just not possible for the majority of people to have both. And I don't believe that people are selfish for not wanting to bring children into poverty. And I do believe that is an act of Satan, because he wants to destroy the family. And we see this. He's destroying the family. There is so much less of a family dynamic. So many people are becoming pet moms and pet dads. And, I think it's really sad. And I know a lot of people are like, oh gosh, they're calling themselves a dog mom. But I think that there is more of an underlying issue with it, as where people can't have kids. So they're resulting in a pet, because a pet's a lot cheaper than a kid. And I know that's such a weird way to look at it, because I love my kids and I wouldn't trade it for the entire world. But it is expensive. There are expenses that come with having a kid, and it is a very privileged thing. And I hate to say that word, because I know that makes people want to throw up. But it is a privileged thing to say that people are just being selfish for not having kids. Some people really cannot afford it. And I may be in the 1%, but I believe that, and I'm not talking about getting an abortion. I hope that YouTube doesn't take this down because I said that. But I believe that if a person is making the wise choice to not have kids, to fix the solution, to not have kids because they cannot afford it, I don't believe it's selfish. I really don't. I don't think that they're selfish for just wanting to have the best chance for their child if they decide to have a child. I think it is actually very selfless that people are deciding to not have children and not bring them into a world that they know they can't afford and bring them into something that is going to hurt them, something that is going to hurt them in the long run. And I may have lost a lot of you, but it needs to be said by somebody. But we're seeing the population decrease, and you know, I may sound like a conspiracy theorist, and this is all for entertainment purposes, but there are some very high up, well-to-do people who have admitted that they want to depopulize the world. Depopulate? Is that the word? So I believe this is all by design. A lot of this is all by design. The grocery prices going up is all by design. You know, the things that are preservatives that are put in food to keep us sick is all by design. And it's from the enemy himself, because he loves to have a sick, unhealthy world, and that is not the creation that we were meant to have. That's not what God intended us to have. But we can rest assured that if we keep oil in our lamps and we keep looking, no matter what the people say, no matter what the mockers and scoffers say, if we keep our eyes on Jesus, there is going to be a day when this world is going to be made perfect and things will be made whole again. So that should be our blessed hope. That is not meant to scare us. Now, if you are not prepared, then that should scare you. It should wake you up. If you are living a lukewarm life as a Christian, and even if you're not a Christian, you just happen to stumble upon this video, I'm not being hateful by saying this, but this should scare you. It should scare you into giving your life to the Lord, because there is a hell. And the worst thing that happened to any of us is for us to not make it into heaven when there is a way. God made a way through Jesus Christ, his son, sent him to die for us. He shed his blood purposefully. He gave his life. He wasn't just forced into giving his life for us. He actually gave it willingly. He shed his innocent blood so that we could have freedom and we could make it into heaven, and there is no other way. But if you're a Christian, let this comfort you. Don't get scared about what's going to happen in the future. And I'm speaking to myself, because as a mom, I can get so afraid of what our future is going to look like. But it's our blessed hope. And we comfort one another. We don't scare one another. We don't terrorize one another with these words, but we comfort one another by saying the King of Kings is on his way back, and he's on his way back soon. So I pray you have oil in your lamp. I pray that if you're not prepared, you get prepared. And if you are prepared, I pray this is a hopeful message for you. And I pray that it excites you that the Lord is coming back. But all right, I'm going to go inside and tend to my kids. And y'all just keep everybody in prayer. I think we're not even supposed to get anything but rain, but it's best to be prepared just in case. And I'm praying that it goes, you know, way up above us, and all we get is a little bit of rain and no power outage. Definitely going to be dripping my faucets tonight, because it's supposed to be in the teens, which is super cold, and I don't want my pipes to bust. But yeah, all those things are things we have to think about, unfortunately, and I'm so ready for the spring. Who is with me? Anyways, all right, I love you guys. I'm out.